What I don't like about a lot of the information about sleep is like this sort of like idea of a stack or a protocol or let's all do the same thing every night. And like Huberman or Brian Johnson you mentioned earlier, that's all they're offering. Tracking brands are not interested in health outcomes, they're interested in investor relations. So their algorithms are more like Candy Crush. So light in sleep is so strongly connected because light is about waking up. Now light at the end of the day is a really interesting one. So blue light on your phone, do you struggle for bed because it mimics the sun? The idea that the phone is the sun is not true.
Welcome to Fit Dad's Podcast. I'm Brad Thompson, I'm joined by Ryan Dutton, and today we are joined by the Sleep Geek, James Wilson. Thank you very much for joining us.
Hello.
Yeah, honestly, absolute pleasure to have you on. Absolutely inundated with questions, sleep related.
It's good. That's
Loads,
good.
loads
which
of
is
questions.
fantastic.
Yeah.
I mean, it makes sense, James, to kick off with yourself. Like, tell us a little bit about yourself. I've got tons of notes here, which I'm honestly thrilled to go over with you.
So I'll do the bit I like it, which is me talking about myself. So I'm a sleep geek. I'm a man in glasses who does know a lot about sleep, and my expertise really lies in sort of the behaviours around sleep, feelings, mindset, and the environment. I am a poor sleeper myself, so sleep's quite genetic. And my genes were not good. For me, they were a bit of a problem because we sold beds and mattresses as a family. So we had a company in Brinsworth in Rotherham called Duckers, which my grandpa founded in the 40s. That was sold in the mid-80s because there were 29 family members involved in the business and 28 probably thought they should run it next. So my dad came out, and that was my mum's dad. My dad came out and he set up a furniture business, always in the industry. In fact, I will talk about our claim to fame. We invented the cabin bed. So you've ever got kids with cabin beds with fit dads?
Wow.
My dad took a bottom bunk out, put a sofa in. My grandpa, his father-in-law, went, that's the worst idea I've ever seen making all my life. Rest is history. Can't pay in it though. So if we could, I'd not be here because I'd be in like pajamas, like a Nepo baby, that, billionaire, be brilliant. But no, we couldn't do that. So we always worked in the industry, hid my poor sleep because you wouldn't buy a mattress off a man who can't sleep, would you? So I did a business studies degree, went into family business. And the point came mid-20s, it was getting really bad. So I'd been an academy footballer at Rotherham. Dad had been a professional footballer at Rotherham, and I just I'd not done well. 6 months in centre of excellence, horrible sleep, distinct sleep, exam time, and I tried to So I remember being at uni, did an exam. I couldn't get sleep, so I drank 3/4 of a bottle of Jack Daniels. Yeah, that didn't work. 17% I got on that exam. It were the day that I think England played Argentina in the World Cup in 2002. So
Surprised you remember it.
So that's it. It was, and obviously that was another day of enjoyment, actually enjoyment in terms of alcohol. So like many poor sleepers, I tried loads and loads of stuff because I'm 45 and I was at school in the mid-90s, like in PSC and stuff like that. We didn't talk about sleep. I just thought everyone just stayed up all night listening to Mark Meadowcroft and RMFM. I thought that were normal, and I had this sort of like weird relationship with sleep. Good, not always bad, but any stress, sleep suffered. And I was the family business supplied shops. I then set up a shop, and we employed a sleep expert, and he was rubbish. He was horrible. He once told a room full of mums that the reason their kids didn't sleep was because they worked. That sort of vibe, very like you are idiots, poor sleepers. And I am a doctor, I know what I'm talking about. And one of those moments where I could do better. Local to us, there's a charity called the Sleep Charity, was a children's sleep charity. Trained with them, worked with kids first, then teenagers. Whilst with them, got put forward for a TV programme on Channel 4. And people on the TV programme said, so called Secrets of Sleep. I'm sure everyone watched no one watched it.
Yeah.
I'm not aware of it.
No one's aware of it. So you get this TV programme, you're like, oh, this is it. I'm going to be the super nanny of sleep and all that sort of thing. And big in Singapore, supposedly.
Okay.
And just how good at translating. So there were 3 other experts who were very academic, worked in clinic like clinicians, and they just taught the academic language. And if you're going to maybe stereotype expertise, often, especially in my world, gone to a good school, gone to a good university. They haven't worked in Primark like I did, or B&Q, or had to do shift work, or so probably maybe don't quite understand what it's like to try and sleep better when you ain't got control of your life, when you are working for somebody else. And I think that's where the difference between me and lots of other expertise is. I think I focus on how we communicate, understand what poor sleep feels like, and I think coaching is telling stories. and that are relevant to the person. And I think it's that simple language in it. It's taking complex things and making them simple to the individual. And I think that's in that TV program, that's what I realised. I was defined as the Peter Kay of sleep at the time, which offensive in two ways.
I was going to say offensive, so you look at that.
I'm from Yorkshire for a start, and I didn't think I was that chubby. But
funny though, that's what I'm saying.
That's what the commissioner meant. For.
Okay.
And then from that, so like, where can I go and like work with big audiences? Because I really love that, and that with organisations. So I started working with organisations. I'm a Rotherham fan. I said play for them. My dad did. Started working with Rotherham. Coincided with Paul Warren management. Worked with the head of performance there, Ross Burberry, who's like from Sheffield, amazing. He's back at Rotherham. Should be working at a far higher level. You know, I've worked at big clubs in my football, in the career I've had in football, and he's as good as anybody. And with that sort of like, he's that because I think organisation sports teams where you've got cultures and you've got how do we fit this stuff into how this team works? How do we support people in a way that like with sleep, the more you kind of it can be too like if you go in and go sleep's the most important thing, then people sleep worse. I think where sleep differs from, let's say, exercise, nutrition, in that kind of like, you know, what we do as practitioners, you can in theory make yourself eat more healthily. You can in theory make yourself train more. You can't force yourself to sleep better. In fact, when you do, you sleep worse.
That's fascinating. So if you say to someone, sleep's the most important thing, you find it gets worse.
Yeah. Wow. So a lot of experts will go in and go, lads, you know what happens if you don't sleep? You'll die quicker. As a man, your balls will shrink and you will be less fertile, so no children for you. And don't sleep well 5 days, type 2 diabetes. When you do that, maybe in exercise and nutrition, well, we've got a direct thing we can do to reduce the chance of that happening. You do that in sleep, straight away fall asleep because, oh my God, if I don't fall asleep in the next 5 minutes, I'm going to die.
So people overthink that at night. They're in bed, overthinking the consequences.
So so I coach sort of one-on-one. So I coach people I coach government ministers. To be clear, not UK government ministers. So anyone blaming last 10 years political strife on me, nothing to do with me. No, entrepreneurs, CEOs, footballers. It's like you've got to remove sleep from performance. And what a lot of my other people in what I do in that realm, because they go in and they tell. You know, they'll get everyone on a wearable. They'll tell everyone that if they don't sleep better, they'll perform worse. And often you might be in a relegation situation. There's a club who've been told to with another expert. We went in, did this. Everyone wearable. Everyone told the sleep rubbish. Get relegated. Yeah, of course you will. Because if you're in a high pressure environment and then all of a sudden you're told you're a lot of rubbish at sleeping, you know, before bed, what are you going to do? So it's that. So I'd say my career is really getting to this point, you know, working with people like Under Armour, Next, Marks & Spencer, lots of government departments, NHS, and then in football I've worked with Rotherham, Sheffield United, Lincoln, West Ham and Coventry this season, and all them clubs get better when we do it. You know, West Ham doing a trophy for 43 years. I come in for 1 year, they win a trophy, I leave, they don't the rubbish ever since. They think it's Declan Rice leaving. I'd argue it's me leaving.
It's funny, isn't it? When you understand sleep really, really well, it's hard not to shout it from the rooftops, right? It's hard not to get your megaphone out and say, this is what every single person should be putting all the eggs in the basket of, because it affects absolutely everything, physiologically, mentally. And I think sleep's gone this weird little journey, hasn't it, over the past 15 years, where we used to be in this real hustle culture, where it was a big, like, sacrifice your sleep, man. If you want to be successful, you got to be willing to go
sleep is for wimps. Gordon Gekko said it in Wall Street.
Exactly.
Sleep is for wimps.
Yeah. And I remember some of the self-help books and the motivational speakers I used to listen to when I first started my business. And they were all saying, like, yeah, you've got to be willing to sacrifice sleep. And I did, 100%. And I remember going, like, a full night without sleep, just trying to stay up and working. And I was written off for about 2 weeks afterwards, because sleep really affects me. I know it's a scale, isn't it? You know, some people are affected too much. Some people can get away with like 4 or 5 hours. I've got to have a good 7 hours if I need, you know, regularly if I want to perform well. And it's the same way when I go drinking, which I don't do much of anymore. If I have a drinking session, a day session, and I finish at like 8, 9 o'clock, I'm in bed, I almost don't feel the hangover. Whereas if I go out at 9, come back at 3, I am written off for so long. And now it's kind of becoming more mainstream. People are starting to understand it. There's a lot more conversations around it. the biggest educational process I went through was reading Why We Sleep. You know, someone recommended it to me. I thought, it's an aspect of performance. All right, I'll read it. And I left that. And I think every day over the next 2 weeks, I had a nap for 30 minutes. And I'm not a napper, but I had a guilt-free nap thinking, this is going to really help me. And I did. I saw massive increases in performance, really highlighted the importance of just how productive a good night's sleep can be.
Do you know what? That book is the biggest driver of work for me. Because actually, a lot of people read it. If you're already a poor sleeper, and it's that book that says if you have listened to an hour's sleep for one night, you're going to die.
Oh, was it?
So Matthew Walker, who wrote the book, all them 3 things I mentioned earlier, small testicles, diabetes, going to die, all come from him.
Interesting.
Wow. So it's really interesting where some people will read it, and again, it's like sleep is very much about mindset. Go, oh, I now need to take my sleep seriously.
Yeah.
A lot of people read it and go, oh no.
It's funny that I never had that. Yeah. My immediate thought afterwards was like, I've got to prioritise my sleep.
But that doesn't surprise me in the job that you do. You may, I know I'm stereotyping here, but you've got a more proactive mindset to, right, well, here's the problem, and I'm going to take some steps to solve it.
Yeah.
Where a lot of people will be, here's the problem, and now I know the problem. I can't see a way out of this hole. And it's that sort of like that thing.
I wasn't deep in any kind of like insomnia or struggling.
Well, that's also the difference. I think if you're in insomnia and you read that book, or even if it's like work-related insomnia. So I worked with a management consultancy firm where they'd read that book as part of their book club. And it caused some right problems because all these management consultants who are working all over the world. So it's not necessarily that they're genetically predisposed to poor sleep, but they definitely have a job that will drive poor sleep. You're reading that book and like, if I have listened to 7 hours sleep, I'm going to die earlier. And I'd also argue that's not true. I think the problem with reading data, we could read data. I have issues with research, and I've heard, listened to your podcast, and I think other people have said similar things where who's doing this research, who's interpreting this research, and all research is based on it's all about like all opinion is based on self-interest.
Bias as well.
So there's a massive bias in there, and there has been some stuff with Matthew Walker in that book where there's been criticisms of the way he's interpreted his own data.
Okay.
He's a researcher, so he reads data on sleep. I'm a practitioner. I practice helping people sleep better. And unfortunately, I think one of the problems in sleep and maybe the wider wellbeing health spaces, we give too much credit to a researcher and people who read about sleep, whether it's Huberman or whether it's Stephen Bartlett or Jake Humphries or whoever your high performance person of choice is, rather than actually listening to people who maybe have got the underlying knowledge, like practitioners like us, where if you're a practitioner, you've applied that theory in a real world environment and you know what happens. And you know that every individual is different. And I would say that's the difference between a Matthew Walker and a researcher and a practitioner, where a practitioner can take that knowledge and apply it to you, where a researcher is just reading data.
It happens in our job a lot where studies come out and they sometimes trump our own real life experiences with like clients and things like that. But the one thing I took from that book more than anything, and the only thing probably did scare me, and the only thing that scared me from that book was a study or a story, should I say, around a guy who developed a rare genetic disorder where he just couldn't sleep. And after 10 months, he died.
So it's based off familial insomnia.
Is it?
That's how we know how long you can live without sleep. So he will have gone 10 days without sleep, roughly 9-10 days into his life without sleep. Food's 19 days. So 4 things need to live: food, water, air, and sleep.
Yeah.
You have any problem with them other 3, you're straight in hospital. You can't sleep. The response of
here's some pills.
For those listening, I'm shrugging. This is the problem that we within the NHS. There is no real pathway if you've got sleep apnea, or if you've got sleep apnea, it's well treated. So that's a breathing disorder where you stop breathing in the night, and respiratory clinics treat that relatively well. Although there's a lot of undiagnosed people with sleep apnea in the UK. If you've got a behavioural, so that you've got insomnia, there's 3 clinics in the UK and they're all in the southeast around London. So you can't get that access. And what we're doing, we're going, right, well, we'll solve the problem using technology, but a digital CBTI platform is not a practitioner. And they don't work as well as a practitioner would do. So you're working with something that's behavioural treatment with a digital tool. And I just don't think it really works very well. So it is that the way that sleep is so serious is shows you in that disorder.
Yeah.
But we're kind of not doing much to solve it. You know, we're unregulated as sleep experts. Anyone can say they're a sleep expert. You know, there's not much decent training. I think my training wasn't the greatest. I had to go out and find my own training because you're doing a 3-day course and you're basically being given. If I were going to take it down to the don't use your phone, but telling kids don't use your phone before bed and have a banana, that's not enough. And that's not enough for people to help them sleep better.
Where does that passion come from you? Is it just your own negative experience with sleep, or did you actively start working with people and this passion develop?
I think it's both things, isn't it? I think it's that my own experience was poor and I understand the shame of poor sleep. I think as a poor sleeper, often it's your fault. You're not trying hard enough. Try harder, James. And that idea that you're an idiot. Well, just do sleep hygiene rules. Make it dark. Don't drink caffeine. Don't use your phone before bed. We all do it as poor sleepers. Don't work. And so I think it's a bit of that. And it is that I am driven by, I think the approach I've developed works. And I want to get that approach into the hands of as many people as possible because I really do think that it's not, it's been too medicalized, it's been too academicized. It is about practical stuff you can do every way. Not people got lives, haven't they? So it's like that thing where if we didn't drink alcohol, we'd sleep better. But some people are going to drink alcohol. So me going in and going, don't drink alcohol, not helping anyone, is it? And I think as an expert, as a practitioner or a coach, if you're telling people something they're not prepared to do, don't use your phone before bed. Yeah, that'd be better. But actually, it's not as bad. The phone's not as bad as it's been made out to be. So can we try and make slightly better decisions? And also, if we're not making those decisions, that's our fault.
Talk us through the bare bones of how your approach differs then. What is it that's quite unique about what you do and how you get the results you do?
I think it is starting at the start. So what we do is poor sleepers. If you've ever had if you work with a poor sleeper just as a coach or in the world that you work in, often what they'll have done, they'll have jumped into the middle. So I can't sleep, I'll go on my Headspace because Headspace says it's a sleep help. Well, if you've got a sore shoulder, that's probably your pillow or your mattress. So you can meditate till the cows come home. That ain't going to solve your problem. And I think that's start at the start. What is it that's causing you a problem? Is it I'm genetically predisposed to poor sleep? It's always been with me. Or is it I'm actually normally a good sleeper, but I've gone through a bereavement or a relationship breakup or a house move or a work issue? You don't approach them you don't approach the framework's not too different, but we need to understand what the underlying, who you are underneath that. It's easier, in all honesty, to get a good sleeper sleeping well than it is a poor sleeper. All I'm doing there is reminding someone what feels like. The good sleepers actually, when they have poor sleep, so if I work with women living with the menopause, if you've always slept well, then the menopause comes along. Geez, it's like being hit by a train because you've never thought about sleep before in your life. Then one day you go to bed, I can't get to sleep. What happens? And then your whole world falls apart. So actually, sometimes the good sleepers, the poor sleep that comes, whatever reason, can be more shocking than a poor sleeper who's always lived with it and kind of adjusted their lives. So you start with who they are. It's like the simple science. There's things you can't argue with sleep that we don't understand. You need to drop your heart rate, drop your core temperature to fall asleep. You need to sleep with your body clock. So if you're a lark, you've got windows of opportunity. If you're an owl, you've got windows of opportunity. If you're a lark, trying to get up at 5 a.m. to go and exercise. So an owl, trying to get up at 5 a.m. to exercise. That's going to be hard for you. Don't do it because sleep's more important than exercise in terms of food, water, air, and sleep. But people kind of think that sleep's got a switch that we can control. We wake up every night 3 to 6 times a night. Every single person wakes up 3 to 6 times a night. You can't sleep through the night. But people think you can, and then when they don't sleep, all that's happening is you have to be awake for 5 minutes to remember that you've woke up. So you might wake up every 90 minutes, coming out your sleep cycle, and then one of them, you wake up, what's the trigger? How do you react? Because it's the reaction. So it might be neighbour down the road, wakes up early because on the motorbike. That's your trigger as you come out your sleep cycle. But then the problem is your brain kicking in. So you explain these simple things to people, they understand sleep better. You then look at someone's lifestyle. So if they're a shift worker, they're not going to be able to create a perfect sleep environment and be everything be right. So you've then got to work around that. If they're in a relationship, if they've got kids, if they've got hobbies. We want people to have lives. So science, individual sort of genetics and biology, life, and then we'll work on some tools and knowledge that gives them things they can do to improve the sleep, but I'm not offering a cure. So it will come back, and you will have to go back to the things that you know that work. So it's that very methodical approach, because if really to sleep well, there's sort of 4 systems at work. You've got light, dark. We've got more chance of sleeping. You've got your chronotype, your sleep type. So owls, late to bed, late to rise. Larks, late to bed, late to rise. But it's more like 2 poles with a line between them, and you all sit on that line somewhere. So
is that a genetic thing?
Yes,
whether you're an owl or a lark?
Very much a genetic thing. Between 13 and your mid-20s, you're more likely to be an owl. So if you when you were younger and you were working in sort of work environments, and people were less understanding of your owlish behaviour, you see it. You will have PTs who are owls trying to run sessions at 5 a.m. They're not doing themselves or the clients illegal, because you are not at your best at 5 a.m, I imagine. So there's things we can do to help you, because I've worked with young athletes who are going to put R4 for training. Can't really change that, so we have to work. That'd be a parameter I'd work with you. You can't. You might need to get up that time to earn money, but that's the difference. There's earning money and there's doing hobbies, and I think he's trying to get people to understand when we have to and when we choose to. And then you've got light, dark, you've got your sleep type, you've got basically your stress and anxiety. So what is your stress threshold? How do you react to stress? So if you drop your heart rate, you will fall. That's what you need to do to fall asleep. So again, how do we relax you? So you got those 3 things, and the 4th thing I've just lost what that is. We might come back to it at some point. But when we understand sort of these different symptoms, these different systems, that's what I'm trying to sort of help people get the best we can as well, because we can't have perfect sleep.
I love the fact that you've just taken on so many different factors of someone's life as well, because there is a lot of blanket statements, which I think is changing a little bit now, around this is how you get the perfect sleep. If you don't fit this criteria, you're never going to get great sleep.
There's no perfect. I think this is it. We need to get away. Because
what's he called? That guy, the guy trying to live forever, Brian.
Brian Johnson. I spent a lot of time on Twitter giving him jip about his ridiculous sleep advice.
Apparently, he's got the best sleep in the world. 100% sleep score for the longest period of time.
We might get onto wearables, and especially the 2 wearables he uses that are the worst. The worst 2 out of them all.
Okay. Well, let's go to that then. Wearables, because this is something that's big in the mainstream.
Yeah, so let's actually make it sleep trackers, because some trackers aren't wearable, you're not wearing them. It's part of my. In the past, I've worked with companies where we've developed tracking. I would say that I am seen as a bit of a tracking skeptic. Because of this, I get people come to me who work for the tracking companies, and I would say generally, and what the feedback I get is tracking brands are not interested in health outcomes, they're interested in investor relations. So their algorithms are more like Candy Crush. They're working out how to get you back on their app every day.
That's interesting.
So actually, if you are a person who sort of is motivated by being told you're rubbish, you're more likely to get a lesser score than a person who's well done, James, you're a good boy.
How do they suss that out?
It's just in the work out from your behaviours.
Usage.
So if you don't use it for 3 days after you've been told you're a naughty boy, they then start giving you more positive messages next time you come on.
That's interesting.
And that again, I would say that's what I've been told. I don't work for those companies. I think one of the problems is the algorithms are not transparent. You're not measuring anything that a tracker can take, whether it's heart rate or the heart rate variability, or you've got an accelerometer in there, so it's measuring its movement. All those things are not direct ways we would measure sleep. Apart from the movement, in clinic, it's so like REM sleep on your tracker.
I was going to say, how the hell do they track REM sleep?
Yeah,
I've always wondered that.
Yeah, so deep sleep, I think you can it's a good guess. It's a decent, because you move less in deep sleep.
But REM sleep is a very specific, rapid eye movement.
Rapid eye movement. So in clinic, you'd have sensors around your eyes.
Yeah. And how are you tracking that from your wrist?
I don't think they are. And I would say, based on the athletes I've supported and the business people I support and the people I coach, I have 3 questions I ask that gives me the information I need to know if you're sleeping well or not. I would say they're more powerful than the...
What are those 3 questions?
The 3 questions would be, how quickly did you fall asleep last night? So if you fall asleep in less than 5 minutes, we will presume, well, that's good. We read loads of articles in the press, fall asleep quicker. Well, actually, fall asleep within 5 minutes, as soon as my head hits the pillow, fall asleep like that. that means you're sleep deprived. So that would indicate to me you've not met your sleep need in the nights previous. So there'd be a bit of a sleep debt there that I want to investigate. If you're falling asleep on a regular basis within 5 minutes, are you going to bed a little bit too late? Are you not quite meeting your sleep need? Because remember, sleep need is not just how much, it's also how good. And that's easy to measure, how much. We've got an idea within 20 minutes how much sleep we got. How good? That's hard.
What's a good time frame then for
5
someone?
to 30 minutes.
5 to 30
We
minutes.
panic.
Really?
Wow.
You get to 20 minutes, a lot of people panic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So like a lot of my work is reframing. That's fine. Oh, what do you mean? It's fine. You've fallen asleep in 20 minutes. Thank you very much. We're done now. That's it.
That's fascinating.
More than 30 minutes would be a bit of insomnia. So what we look at there is, are you going to bed too early? Again, you've got a sleep type. You're an owl. I'm going to bed at 9:30, James. Well, yeah, but your probably sleep time is between 10:30 and 12. So if you're going to bed at 9:30, what happens after half an hour? Your cortisol, your adrenaline. As an animal, we're quite unique in that we are designed to not fall asleep if we are stressed and anxious. So if you go to bed too early and have time to worry, only about falling asleep, then you're not going to fall asleep. And it's what kept us alive. When we had predators, saber-tooth tigers chasing us, so we often talk about saber-tooth tigers, like what's your saber-tooth tiger? Because as a mammal, we're designed. So when we say this is poor sleep, it's not poor sleep. We are an efficient human. If you don't sleep because you're stressed and anxious, you're an efficient human. If you can fall asleep anywhere, I can fall asleep in a washing line, James. Well, a saber-tooth tiger will eat you then. So you shouldn't be able to fall asleep in a washing line. And that gene pool should not be here. They should have been eaten millennia ago by a saber-tooth tiger. Probably a poor sleeper like me saved them. So if you're a good sleeper out there, you're welcome. You are welcome that my ancestors saved you.
Scruff of the neck.
But tricky, because that saber-tooth tiger will fall asleep eventually. But we can actually go quite a long time without falling asleep. But we haven't got saber-tooth tigers anymore. We've got work, kids, relationships. That embarrassing thing you did 5 years ago in a pub. You think 2 o'clock in the morning is the time to think about it. So it's that, like, I would say more than 30 minutes, we've got something to investigate. Less than 5 minutes, we've got something to investigate. Next question I ask is, how many times do you remember waking in the night? Because we talked about everyone wakes 3 to 6 times. If you don't remember waking up at all, that's good quality sleep. That's like, I want that. If you get 6 hours consistently of that, I was with a company this week. The best sleep in that company slept 6 hours, same time, sort of like 12 till 6 every day. He was the best. He was like, just sleep with him. That's what I do. Good sleep, wake up, no without alarm. Brilliant. That is what you want.
Is that the best piece of advice you could give anyone about sleep? Would it be wake up and go to bed at the same time?
Not go to bed at the same time because you can't fall asleep. Target a time.
Okay.
Within a window. So I use 90-minute windows. So without waking with someone, we target maybe 9:30 to 11. But on one night, you might have a client that's a late client. On that night, you would want to go to bed later because you still need to wind down because we need to drop your heart rate and drop your core temperature before bed. So we give people the space. It's that framework, but not. We do not give a prescription of doing. We give a prescription of understanding. So you need to have that 90-minute window, and within that window. So if it's 10 o'clock, you're ready for bed. Just get ready for bed. Like, go to bed. Your body's giving you a data point that you need to go to sleep. It's called being sleepy.
Okay.
You don't need it. You don't need a tracker to tell you that. If that data point doesn't come at 10 tonight, then just keep winding down. Keep watching something that relaxes you. Keep doing stuff that relaxes you. It will come. So I think it's about consistent wake-up time, definitely. That drives consistent sleep time. Because remember, the last system is sleep pressure. So during the day, you build up pressure. It's like appetite. So the moment you wake up to the moment you fall asleep, you're getting sleepier. So if we can harness that pressure, remove the anxieties, because we don't want to get our your parasympathetic nervous system getting all worried and stressed. Build that pressure. Then you're going to fall asleep roughly. Not exactly, but roughly at the same time every night. When an expert says, go to bed at the same time every night, that is a sign that expert is not a good practitioner. Because they've not practiced enough to learn that they actually, you need to give that flexibility. Because as soon as you start putting the pressure of you need to be in bed for 10 o'clock, what's going to happen? Poor sleep comes. So if it's wake up once or twice, that's fine. None at all is brilliant. Once or twice is fine because you need a wee. I'm 45. It'll come to you both as you get older. But I'm going to talk tonight. Really interesting. We see it as, I need to not drink before bed. You both know how important hydration is. I work with fellas, especially fellas. where they wake up at night for a wee, they're like not drinking from midday. They look like prunes. There's no water in them. And then actually, but what happens is, so
I bet they look great in the morning.
Definitely. I've lost some weight. But what actually happens is they with urinating and defecating, we release a hormone that represses that urge. But as you wake up, so those bits where you're not aware, if you're a little bit stressed and it pulls you out of your sleep properly, straight away your body goes, right, before we. So it's actually the waking up that then triggers the urination, not
the urination itself.
Not the urination triggering the waking up. So again, it's like that. Relax better before bed. If you wake up 2 or 3 times a night for a wee, I would suggest your problem is you're going to bed stressed. And you reduce the stress, you're less likely to wake up the night.
Okay.
But if it's 3 times or more, or for more than 30 minutes, then we've got a problem. And again, investigation is needed.
So how many guys would wake up, needing a wee 3-4 times in the night and think, I've got a urinary tract disease, or there's something going on, prostate's not right.
Well, they're going to give you it's got a name on it as an actual disorder, and you can get treatment for it. And often you just need to chill out a little bit more. And then the last question we ask is, how do you feel at 10, 11 in the morning? Because that's when you should be at most alert. Well, if you feel right, like alert then, that's a good, you've met your sleep need. If you don't feel alert then, well, there's a problem, isn't there? Because I think it's like natural rhythm, you'll feel more lethargic between 1 and 3, you'll feel more lethargic between 5 and 7. But 10, 11, if you feel alert.
Why 10, 11, is that
in the body clock, that circadian rhythm.
Okay.
Your alertness levels should be at their highest at that time. So not set in stone because we're all different, but again, don't measure your sleep in terms of how you feel as soon as you wake up. It's not fair when you sleep. Like you get up and go, well, I feel a bit rough. Your sleep's like, come on, mate, give me 20 minutes to get going. And especially if you're a bit of an owl, you set an alarm and your body takes longer to get going. Well, yes, just after waking, you will feel more lethargic, but 10, 11, it's good for football work because that's when they start training generally. So we can say if you start training feeling okay, we judge it on that. So if you don't feel okay, then again, I've got data points there that technology can't give me, that I would argue give me more information than any wearable. And when we compare them, so I was working with the England footballer a couple of seasons ago, and she was getting off her Whoop, we're getting 5% REM, 7% deep. She was really worried because she'd read all the stuff. She read Matthew Walker's book and it told her she was going to fail. And she looked all right, though. So she looked her eyes were quite bright. She weren't because you can tell the body language often around sleep, not got dark bags under her eyes. This don't seem right. Just send me your wearable data for 2 weeks and answer me these 3 questions. So I didn't tell her that wearables are useless and don't use it because straight away if I go in an attack, what are you doing, you idiot? She ain't gonna change.
In today's world as well, if you write off the technology, you're almost kind of on the back foot. Anyway, they think, he's a bit too old school for me.
Yeah.
I like the technology.
And a lot of my footballers would say, James, well, you're just worried that it's going to replace you. Lads, you don't understand. that's the problem is, we see it as an intervention. It's not an intervention, it's a measurement tool. So often people will buy a tracker when they don't sleep. Well, that tracker ain't going to do anything to let you sleep better. It's just going to tell you that you're not sleeping. We did it for 2 weeks. We can score that. I can score it and create a score out of it. Okay. Her score out of 3 with 2.75 on average over the 3 weeks. A Whoop score stayed quite low in terms of REM sleep and deep sleep, and it just convinced. So what we're doing then, she may have carried on using her wearable, she may not, but she now understood the body. So again, like this season at Coventry, a lot of the players were tracking with various trackers, Auras, Whoops. Whoops in particular are popular in football because of the advertising they do on the podcast, the high performance podcasts and stuff.
Yeah. What would you say is the best?
I think they're always probably. I think if you track a ring tracker, we know this, don't we? If you go into hospital, you take your heart rate from your finger. You don't take it from there.
Yeah.
So it's more accurate.
Okay.
And originally, I really liked. I knew Aura quite early. I work a lot in Finland. The Finnish culture around technology is always, we can make this better. I would say they've moved. They always used to complain when I knew them. We don't market like Americans. The Fitbit is better marketed than ours is. Unfortunately, they've gone down the route of emulating what they called American marketing, where and you might where there's a health influencer called Peter Tillier, where there's a legal case between Aura and him because he was being paid to promote the product, but it wasn't transparent. He wasn't saying this is an advert in the podcast. And you might notice if you listen to podcasts, weirdly, presenters will just mention Oura Ring for no reason. Like, I use the Oura Ring, and it might be a politics podcast, or it might be a football analysis podcast. Well, that's a bit weird. He just dropped a mention of a brand in there, and it's like, I'm not saying there's anything untoward happening, but it always sets my spidey senses going for.
It's incredibly powerful though. Like, I listen to a lot of Joe Rogan, and he's quite transparent in which companies he does and doesn't promote. But he will just drop a name of some company in there, and suddenly their sales go through the roof. I mean, you're looking at like the most listened to and downloaded podcast ever.
Yeah.
And when you go into ice baths and things like that, ice baths in LA actually started when the kind of form at the start said, "How did you hear about us?" TV, adverts, Google, Joe Rogan.
Yeah. You can see it, can't you? That power they have. And I think as an expert, I have brand relationships, but I'm quite transparent about those brand relationships. I also,
what's the court case with Peter too?
It's basically that they owed him some money because he'd been promoting the product and they didn't pay him. So it wasn't actually anyone going, "Oh, this is like anything untoward in what he was doing." Just through the case, it's come out that there were payments being made that weren't. It's all in public record.
Okay.
That weren't kind of like disclosed in the podcast. And obviously, we've seen in the UK with Stephen Bartlett and Yule. There is this thing with like health influencers and promoting brands that we need that transparency. I think as experts, we need to be transparent about our relationships with those brands,
especially when it's health. Because people take that so seriously now, and they're very much into it.
The wearable, I would say Whoop is probably the most inaccurate from my experience in terms of sleep. So that's in terms of sleep. I'm not anything else. I think Oura is probably the most, or ring-based ones. There are other ring-based ones. Is it Ultra Human?
Yeah.
They seem to be like be more accurate.
Apple Watches.
I think like they're probably somewhere in the middle.
Okay.
I think they they did a thing with sleep apnea where they were like sort of they said they could maybe give an indication if you got sleep apnea. That might be what it looks like. I will plug somebody else's podcast on here. There's a podcast called Sleep Unplugged, and they do an episode on that Apple Watch claim.
Okay,
that's quite well deconstructed around it. It's probably a little bit too long for me to go into that.
What's that one? Sleep
Unplugged.
Sleep Unplugged.
The guy called Chris Winter.
I'll definitely check that out.
Yeah, so like that gives that sort of information. I think 8 Sleep. So you might have seen 8 Sleep, which is
the mattresses.
Yeah, the worst sleep product I've ever slept on.
Wow.
5 hours to set up. It's like sleeping on a cattle grid. So I've got a very expensive bespoke mattress that was made just for me and my wife. Its own size. It ended up making that feel like a 50 quid mattress off of the market. It was horrible.
8 Sleep's not cheap either.
Not sleep. It's a couple of grand in it.
Yeah.
And it's noisy. So it's like it cools and warms.
That bad.
And it told me that my sleep score was 93 and my wife's was 98. But a product that has a tracker in it is so unsurprisingly going to tell you on that product you've slept well. And I think that is the claims are getting in front of the actual what it can do. And I think that you see that a lot with coming from a product background and having worked in both tech and traditional products. I know the fibs that are told because I've seen behind the curtain on this stuff because I've worked in the industries. I think around sleep, I said no regulation, claims can be made. If lipstick is more regulated than sleep products.
Must be fascinating for you to see all these companies with the race to the best sleep products and what they're doing and how they're approaching it. And it does not surprise me that some of them are doing a little bit of underhand tactics, trying to keep you on their app, on their products more than others. And that's where it starts getting a little bit murky. And it sounds like it's getting a little bit murky right now.
It is, and so I think I am my job as an expert. So like as the Sleep Geek, because there's sort of two sides to what I do. I am the Sleep Geek, but I run a company called Kip Mate. So we're a group of experts who go into companies and sports teams to support better sleep. But as a Sleep Geek, my job is to help poor sleepers navigate this sort of stuff because I know. So I've got other experts that I know who are really good, but they're not from a product background. So I can give them. I don't think they're doing anything like it's not like they're cynically telling fibs to make money. They just don't know, and they believe what the brand tells them. And so, like a really good example in mattresses. So traditional products, and again, we obsess over wearables and sleep trackers. 12% of people use a wearable. 99% of people have a mattress. If I ask a sleep scientist or clinician, what's your favourite wearable? Oh, they can wax lyrical for hours. about the various plus and minuses of those products. If I ask a sleep scientist or a clinician about mattresses, but yet we all sleep on them. And they you might have seen like gel mattresses. So these are mattresses that the claim is they keep you cool all night long. Often sold to menopausal women, so women living with the menopause, or women generally, because the menstrual cycle is not helpful for sleep. For 2 of your 4-week cycle, you're too hot for sleep, so it makes sleep more difficult. So these mattresses, if you're a hot sleeper, this will keep you cool all night long. They keep you cool for about half an hour. So if you've got chronic temperature regulation issues, bear in mind to fall asleep, drop your core temperature, drop your heart rate. Temperature is fundamental to sleep. It takes a change of 0.5 degrees for you to start waking up. This product's making this claim of keep you cool all night long. You get it. 2 hours in, and actually they're a foam product. Foam is an insulator. Foam will always. So this thing you see about NASA, memory foam, this wasn't a mattress in a spaceship. This was an insulation foam. It's designed to keep things in. So we kind of like we miss. It's not just on the technology we were misinforming. We've been misinformed on that sort of product. And at Christmas, you had Gillian Anderson on an advert saying that this mattress will keep you cool all night long.
She did. What was it? Was it with Dreams?
Yeah. And that sort of stuff. I then go into. I talk to hundreds of thousands of poor sleepers. I go into a company, we'll do a talk on menopause, and you'll see to a room full of women living with the menopause, what mattress have you got? And I did one recently, and 30 women, 30 have got that mattress. For temperature regulation, springs and natural fillings is what you need. Use your duvet. Your duvet comes into it because, if you share a duvet with another person, you're going to get too hot. If their heat comes onto your side, have separate duvets. You can manage temperature better.
Oh wow! So you recommend separate duvets?
Really simple thing.
2 singles?
Yeah. 2 singles, yeah.
I've heard this from people, just saying it's a game changer, especially if you're different temperatures as well.
And again, in sleep, we're often attracted to the opposite us in terms of sleep. So you'll have a hot sleeper and a cold sleeper. You'll have an owl and a lark. You'll have a good sleeper and a poor sleeper. That causes real confrontation in relationships. Brilliant for bringing up kids. Owl, lark. Well, we're doing the early shift and the late shift. Before you have kids, Owl wants to stay up late. Lark wants to go, do you not love me? Maybe not that, but they come to bed with torch on. Fight. You wake up early. It can cause real confrontation. Where if we're being told as a hot sleeper you need to buy this product, it don't work. We end up with people not trusting the industry. So I'm from the mattress industry, 3rd generation, beds and mattresses. I would say that the consumer sees us as made research like furniture, marketed like health, sold like used cars. And one of the things I do is I train people in shops. With somebody last week, because they've often got brilliant product knowledge, but the product knowledge comes from the brands, and the brands are telling them, well, this. Obviously, the brand always say their thing is the best thing since sliced bread. Well, I'm trying to help them understand, if your gel is better than memory foam, but actually it's like a hierarchy. But then springs, natural fillings is better than springs with man-made fillings. So it's about the individual and working out the products and the setup that we can create for the individual.
As well as the transparency then of maybe the marketing, do you think a lot of companies now can probably benefit from maybe just having that consultation period with buyers and maybe saying, right, how do you sleep? Are you, would you say you're more alert at night or easing away at night? That changed my outlook on mattress shopping in particular.
But any kind of sleep product, they're not very good at. All of them will go, this is the one thing you need to do to sleep better. There's a podcast, Secret Leaders. People might read. It's a business one. The guy on there runs a company, a supplement company, like a brain supplement, and he's like, my insomnia was cured by my supplement. That's not fair on people because it might have been, but that's a data set of one. And I see there's an eye mask. So there's an eye mask brand called Drowsy, which is a really good eye mask, brilliant eye mask. Does what an eye mask should do. It's comfortable and it blocks light. But the founding story was around this curing my insomnia. It's an eye mask. It now talks about it's gone down the beauty route, and it talks about you'll never need to use Botox because of this eye mask. We don't need to make those claims. Why are we making those claims? Why don't we just say this is actually a really good eye mask? This is comfortable, and this is blocks the light. That's your job from a sleep point of view, and that's where we're going. Where people are trying to reach too far, often driven by investors, because the investors will demand how sticky is your product. So from a wearable brand, I've been in those conversations. I've been involved with sleep startups where we're raising money, and the VC or the person investing will say, how sticky is this going to be? I wouldn't want it to be sticky. if I've got a digital offering, if you're still on that in 3 months, something's not right. Because I should have given you enough knowledge that you don't need me anymore. And good, especially what I do, you don't need me there all the time going, I want you not to have me there. I want you to build your knowledge base to an extent that I'm not needed anymore.
I think that's how we know that James is an absolutely cracking coach, because that's very much mine and Ryan's knowledge of, you're not going to need, from a coach perspective, you're not going to need us all your life. We want to know what people need to know to not need us anymore.
And it's actually, I think it's actually quite, you're taking advantage of vulnerable people if you have an approach. And you see it in sort of counselling. I was working with someone who, during lockdown, their counsel would not let them move away from London because they need to see their counsellor every day. And you see in sport, don't you, with like sports psychologists, you'll hear it on podcasts where footballers are talking, like, the first person I talk to every morning is my sports psychologist. Is that healthy, really? Yeah. Have you not, how long have you worked with you? 5 years? Have you not built up the tools now to deal with whatever's happened on the weekend, to deal with it yourself? That is someone, I would say, taking advantage of a vulnerable person. That's not what you do as a credible coach, is it?
Sounds like a comfort blanket and a,
And as a coach, you've got to break that down. You've got to recognise that as a toxic relationship, and actually say, oh, I don't want my first conversation to be with you every morning.
True.
It's funny because I think everyone gets into what they do, counselling, sleep advice, personal training, because they want to help people.
Yeah.
But somewhere along the way, for certain people, it just becomes very money orientated, and that just changes. It's amazing how it changes morals, ethics, and just your approach to business. Unfortunately,
but you see, like I think in what you do, you see those influencers who put across a prescription of doing. If you want to be a successful PT, you need to do and it's just not true, is it?
No.
Yeah.
Given an understanding about the business, because I think again, as people in like a wellbeing space as coaches, we're not often taught. Like, I come from a business background. I did a business degree. I've always been around like entrepreneurship and people running their own businesses. So I look in that. But I know a lot of my fellow sleep experts or sleep coaches or consultants, they're not taught the bit, and they're given like, well, just go out and you word of mouth. You tell one person and you tell another. That, and I think I listened to some of your podcasts, and that I think you said like you need that 6-12 months of money.
Yeah.
Because you're not going to establish a practice on word of mouth. People aren't that bothered about. Even if you do they'll say when you do a rubbish job, but when you do a brilliant job, that's what they expect. They don't tell that many people.
It's a trust game. It always is a trust game. I just think being coached is a trust process.
Yeah.
It always has been, always will be. And the sooner people sit up and realise that, the better.
And that's why AI can't do it. AI can't ask questions. It can answer them, but I think it's always going to struggle to ask a question like a good coach.
Yeah.
Let's go on to something that's, I guess, been around a little bit longer. Magnesium. This was obviously something that our audience asked quite a lot in terms of questions, because there's so many different ways you can get this into your system now. I take magnesium with zinc pretty much every night, 45 minutes before bed. I took it for probably about 3 years straight. And then I ran out and I forgot to replace it for like 2 or 3 months. I didn't really notice much difference in my sleep. But then when I went back to it, I was sleeping like a baby. I really, really noticed the difference. So I've got my own views on it. What's your opinion on magnesium?
I think as a supplement, it can be really helpful, but it's not a magic pill.
Yeah.
So I think I think that magnesium, like we do live with magnesium deficiency, a lot of us. I think like anything, there's magnesium in there. So there's quality of the product is a big one. Yeah. I think you get this sort of like the Huberman magnesium threonate, is it, that he really pushes? There's not much research around that in sleep. And in fact, the research there is shows it can have a negative impact as well as a positive impact. Okay. But like magnesium glycinate and more traditional forms of magnesium, and again, I think delivery mechanism, some people prefer a tablet. Some people find that can actually make them feel a bit sick. Some people prefer it delivered like transdermally through the skin. That can be really itchy and leave a greasy. So it's like, I think a lot of this is like, I am not against, I like supplements if they work for you. I'm never against things that, if it's a placebo, I don't care. Yeah. If it helps you sleep better, what? Sure. Again, this thing where, again, you'll get this argument in sleep with like whole industries, you'll get these people really like going at each other about it, and like almost like, well, if it works for individual, like CBD is probably a similar thing. Again, not much research. Some research show it doesn't help. Some research that shows it does. If you're trying it, that's fine. I'm probably not going to believe Paul Merson's Supreme adverts, if I'm honest. Seems to be a bit over-egging pudding with that.
I don't know how much he's getting paid for that.
But I think give it a go. But it's not like if you've got chronic insomnia that you've lived with for years, if you're expecting magnesium to solve that issue, you're probably going to be slightly disappointed.
Yeah.
If you are wanting to, so there's that thing with sleeping. There's solving a sleep issue, answering that prop question. There's another question that I answer a lot: optimizing sleep, and that's probably where supplementation as a stronger role. So again, what we get in our marketing, what you get from the magnesium companies is like everyone should use this. Same with like sort of the powders and the teas and stuff like that. Everyone should use this. Well, actually, if you're trying to optimize sleep, it's a cost-effective thing to give I'd rather you do that than buy an 8 Sleep at $3,000. So let's start with the cheapest thing. Does it have an impact? Yes or no? It's like any practitioner, I can't tell you what's going to work for you, but I'd rather you start on magnesium than dropping a couple of grand on something that you don't need.
And makes it feel like a £50 mattress rather than
This is it. So I think the science is getting better. I think we'll continue to research into it. But like I said, I think what I don't like about a lot of the information about sleep is like this sort of like idea of a stack or a protocol or let's all do the same thing every night. And I think, like of Huberman or Brian Johnson you mentioned earlier, that's all they're offering. But that's a data set of one. That's a data set of someone who probably has a lifestyle that we can't have because they have control of their own life.
Yeah. Let's go on to light. This is something we mentioned a few times.
Yeah.
Before bed, when you wake up, is it something you recommend? You have certain protocols for certain people when it comes to light?
So light in sleep is so strongly connected because light is about waking up. And if you wake up with light, what that says to your body is, right, so during the day, you're building that sleep pressure. Get lots of light early in your day. So not Andrew Huberman's day, your day. So what if you're an owl, your day might start at 8 and you get a light early in that day. If you're a bit more of a lark, it might start at 6 and you get light early in that day. So it's about early in your day. Within a couple of hours of waking up, 20 minutes of sunlight can be incredibly helpful. If you're having to get up early for work or you're a shift worker, for example. So I use a pair of glasses called AO wearables. Full disclosure, they are Sleep Geek certified, so they have paid for that certification. So my certification scheme, every product you pay the same amount, it's £800, don't matter who you are, and that's it. I don't get an affiliate. I don't do affiliate schemes in terms of product. I don't do anything like that. You pay that, so I'll create. The cost to me put it on my website and create a bit of content around it. So we've got to cover that cost. But the affiliation scheme is all we don't do. I had someone said to me the other day.
You don't have any affiliation schemes?
Not with commission. Because I had someone said to me the other day, I talked to a brand like, well, you'd make 10 grand on this. Yeah, but if I make 10 grand on it, I'm pushing it to the wrong people.
It's good ethics that.
With something like that, like therapy glasses, I know I can say like, well, you're a shift worker, you need them. But if you're a footballer who's going outside every day and getting natural light anyway,
and as soon as you're on the payroll, you know straight away they'll be like, "Well, why are you not selling more of these?"
Exactly.
Like, you should be, and then it's pressure for you.
Yeah.
To know what I mean?
I'm not QVC. I'm on QVC. I'm not here to do that job. If I'm,
it's funny because like Huberman is a form of that. Peter T is a form of that.
8 Sleep with Huberman. I could see it coming. Because I could see from his posts that they were going to be. I'm like, this is 8 Sleep coming, and I'll get right giddy. This is going to be 8 Sleep. And when I actually got my 8 Sleep, I was so excited about getting that product. All good reviews online, nothing bad. Now maybe we got to like start questioning where I talk to other people like me who've been gifted one and they've tried it and they've got the same experience as me. Why is that not in the public domain? Some of them have also then endorsed the product.
Wow.
And the amount of like these experts, so I get to have these private conversations with them where they'll go, "Yeah, I've used it, but pay me."
But how many different supplements and products like AG1 at the moment is being like debunked a little bit in terms of how effective it is, price per,
But then so like Brian Johnson debunks that, but with his own version of it, going my version's better, but then some other fella comes along. It's like he then debunks Brian Johnson's version of it. He might then bring out
and everyone's selling something.
Yeah, everyone's selling something. And I think that's the thing. All opinion is based on self-interest, including mine. I'd say my self-interest is my ego is driven by I'm right.
Yeah, okay.
And I want my approach to be the one that people use. Yeah. It's less about I believe the money followers be doing a good job.
But everything you spoke about today all just directs towards there's not one solution, there's not one product, one way of thinking. It's so unique and yes, it's nice to have like a toolbox, isn't it? Things you can go in there, and this 8 sleep mattress for someone might be the greatest
Exactly, that's it.
The sleep glasses for someone might be a great product. It's about knowing which people are required for each product.
Yeah. So with light, sorry, I'll go off on tangent. So light, incredibly important. Start of the day, getting natural light. If you're not getting it through going outside, you can get light boxes. So you can get light boxes that are a lot cheaper on things on like Amazon, things like that. Just look at the looks, because most light products are based on lux, which is basically a measurement of like intensity. Because I'm registered blind, and because I'm registered blind, my eyes are very sensitive. Those glasses, it feeds light in a different way, which allows someone like me to be able to access light.
Is that just you or anyone with glasses?
Anyone. Well, I think it's anyone. I think it's a more efficient way of accessing the light, so you don't have to use it as long.
Okay.
Yeah. So, and for me, one of the thoughts behind my sleep issues could be because 60 to 80% of people with the conditions I've got struggle to sleep, and because your light exposure is so important to sleep, and my eyes don't absorb light in the same way yours do. It could be that is one of the problems. I'd say by consistently wearing that product, my sleep has improved. But again, it could be sleeper. There's plenty of things that I do as well that could be improving it.
Okay.
Now, light at the end of the day is a really interesting one, and I would say from my practitioner experience 10 years ago, to me, the idea that the phone is the sun, it's not true. It's not, because your phone,
blue light thing, isn't it?
Yeah. So blue light on your phone. Do use your phone before bed because it mimics the sun. If you held your sun, if you hold your phone like 4 centimeters from your eyes, it gives off about 40 lux. The light box probably gives off 10,000 lux at 50 centimeters.
Wow.
It's not the sun. But there's an argument in the light world between this is not the problem before bed. It's more what you do on the device that's the problem. And then another point of view that blue light is toxic. We shouldn't be exposed to blue light. There needs to be actually warnings on light bulbs because LED lights are more likely to be sort of a blue light rather than the old sort of fluorescent filament items were more like red and that were better. The problem is those two arguments are led by an expert who works with a tracker that sits on your phone, so you have to use your phone before bed. So therefore, there's an interest there in that. There's a financial interest in his opinion. And the other side is led by a bloke who sells red light products online, another academic. This is the problem. Now, I would say I'm towards the blue light is not that much of an issue, just from a practitioner experience, because working with teenagers, when I work with teenagers, they would complain, well, we've been given a device by our parents at 5, and now I've been told we can't use it before bed, so what else are we supposed to do? And it is the content on there. And I think the other thing to as well remind us.
So you think it's the content and the stimulus of the brain rather than the blue light itself?
It makes you I think that is.
I probably agree with that. I think all it takes you to go down like a bit of a YouTube, Instagram reel kind of, rabbit hole, and all of a sudden you're well invested. I mean, we've spoken about aliens on the program before. I won't mention that again, but I went off on a right tangent. I go down an aliens rabbit hole on the YouTube shorts, and all of a sudden my brain's racing. I think it is. I think it's the stimulus rather than it is.
And that's when I work with you. So what do before bed, James? So the hour before bed, you got targeted sleep time. The hour before bed. Best thing I can do is advise is get ready for bed. You start the hour, because the worst thing we do is we feel sleepy and start getting ready for bed. Or we just don't wake up stuff. We woke ourselves up. We can't get to sleep now. And if there's one piece of advice I'm going to give really my hour talks could be distilled to just get ready for bed, because it has such an impact on people. Like you make that change that you're ready for bed. So when you feel sleepy and you go to bed when you're sleepy, you don't think, oh well, I'll just watch another 20 minutes. That makes a difference. But hour before bed, it's drop your heart rate, drop your core temperature. Core temperature, bath or shower. Raise your core temperature slightly, get out of the bath or shower, drops it. Then it's like, what makes you feel alert and what makes you feel relaxed? I can't tell you that. And that's where I get annoyed with the prescriptive stuff of don't use your phone before bed, meditate. Some people, if you didn't use your phone before bed, they drive them mad. I wonder what's happening, you've got to work with individuals' mindset around it. And it's a big behavioural change. If you're really addicted to your phone, or you just enjoy your phone, because people might enjoy it. We have this sort of shaming of, oh, there must be something wrong with you. Why have you not got enough willpower? If you've not read a Stoic philosopher, Marcus Aurelius didn't use a phone. What's wrong with you? And I think that we often this sense of I'm a better person than you because I cannot use a phone before bed. And it's like we wake up time. Decide the idea that like larks are godly people. Larks are better people. The Stoic. It comes up a lot when people say, "Oh, the Stoic philosophers, James, they all woke up early." Yeah, but if they were owls, they were pretending. So that.
I'm really happy you said that. I think I went through exactly the same thing in my 20s. I'm better now, but in my 20s, when I couldn't wake up early, and I did have this desire just to, and I was also really productive in the evenings. I found I got some of my best work done.
Exactly.
Like when I was just at the laptop or creating stuff post like 8 p.m. I could never work out why.
And I think I was ashamed. Yeah. I was ashamed. Yep. And I think like organisations don't utilise. This is where we're talking about like working from home or working in office. Well, you work from home and you remote work and you're an owl. You will get more productivity out of that owl because they will work at. Because if they're working in office, like I'm not using 8 till 10 to work. But if they can in the day go and do the things that early afternoon go and exercise, for example, because that would suit them far better than exercising at 5 a.m, and then they're working later in the night, you'll get some really great work out of them.
Have you ever mentioned this to businesses? And have businesses ever gone, okay, well, let's have a look at like sleeping types and let them start a little bit later, finish a little bit later? Is there any of that going on?
Yeah, so I work with a company where they were based in sort of near Heathrow, and they've made it more flexible. You could come in any time between 7 and 10 and then finish any time between like 3 and 6.
Yeah.
Okay.
Problem is, in London, everyone tried to get in for 7 to miss the rush hour.
Right.
So it was an unintended consequence of that was that I've talked to people, we've looked at shift work and do we put like owls on the late shift and larks on the early shift? It's hard, and it is hard. I think 30 years time, because not just around sleep, but the whole thing around sort of circadian health and exercising at the right time, eating at the right time, I think that will change, and working at the right time comes into that. Today, it's a big change for organisations to go through.
Coming away from organisations, it's probably a great thing to say to business owners, entrepreneurs, solopreneurs, whatever you want to call them, to take control of that. Yeah. If you are like Ryan in his early 20s, does the best work at 7, 8, 9 o'clock at night, do it. Make it fit around your life.
And I think it's PT. So if you work better in the evening, then put classes, put your sessions in the evening, and put in the morning, leave it free, because you're not going to be the best. So that's why I do training for PTs, and we're just about to launch something in a couple of months. And when I've gone and talked to like PTs in organisations, it is around that, like, because often they're within a gym, but they may be like working as they're self-employed. Like, well, actually, like, can we get the best out of your day? Because as well as an entrepreneur, you need to give yourself time to wind down as well.
Yeah.
You will sleep better if you give yourself those points a day where you can relax as well.
It's also interesting to kind of know what I can do at certain times of the day. So I've always found actually maybe PT sessions in the evening, I wasn't always as alert, but I was much more creative.
Yeah.
So I'll be able to write, and I'd be able to do blog posts and design things for social media and the website and obviously the podcast now. So maybe the evening for me is a great chance to sit down, get in my own head a little bit, and just focus on one sole task. But I'm maybe not so good in the one-to-one sessions. I do find myself in that 7:30 to 8:30 spot, just starting to wind down.
Also, it depends when you start work. If your working day was like 1 till 8, you might feel better. So it is. I think it is like you've got to try and work it out yourself. Yeah. No, I'm lucky that I can dictate my like working schedule. I'm more of a lark, so I I'll get up, I'll do a bit of work. After 3 o'clock, I'm not that good. I do go into a couple of weeks. I'm going to a business where I'll be working 12 till 4 in the morning. You're not getting the best of me at that time, but I've got to do it because that's when the people need help. And I quite enjoy it because it challenges you a little bit, and you understand what it's like to be a shift worker. You can that empathy. It helps with that, building that empathy for the situation.
That's a rough shift.
That sounds like such a cool transition into shift working. It's one question that I got quite a lot personally. I work with a couple of shift workers. About one guy in particular does like a week of days and a week of nights.
Yeah,
navigating that. It's a battle. He seems to have acclimatized to it.
I've got some people in the NHS who do that. I have no idea how
shift pods are horrible.
I have no idea how people do that routine. Nights 1 week, days. How do you even adjust mentally and physically to that? Crazy.
I think shift work's hard. I think we have to be honest, and we need to accept this is not how your body's designed.
Yeah.
You'll probably have a shift pattern that suits you better. Owl, late shift, lark, early shift. It's easy to do consistent nights. So I work with companies where it's like you're a night shift worker and you do nights. That is far easier. I would say it is, in a perfect world, you would not have any life and you would just live your life around your sleep and you'd shift properly, but that's not the way it is. So the biggest problem with that transition is often the bit in between when you've had days off and you want to see your family. That's where you can often it can make it more difficult. I would argue most shift workers are good sleepers. If you weren't, you wouldn't be able to do shift work. Yeah. They've just got a situation that puts pressure on the sleep. The simple things I can give that general advice. When you finish shift, don't rush straight to bed. So if you've done a night shift, for example, you're shattered. You want to go straight to bed. Of course, with that appetite we talked about, so sleep is like an appetite. If you go to bed straight away, you've not wound down properly, you're shattered, you'll fall asleep. Generally, the biggest issue I deal with is wake up in the night, not going to sleep. If you're sleep deprived, you'll fall asleep. That's why you fall asleep within 5 minutes. So they will fall asleep, but maybe you've got to think that the external environment is telling you it's daytime. It's loud. It's warm. You've got a lot more external inputs that are saying wake up. There's a lot of light, so you got to make sure the room's dark. You got to make sure it's as quiet as possible. Earplugs can be helpful. I think shift workers, an eye mask or blackout blinds, and get home and do the things you just said. Get ready for bed. Do something relaxing. Watch your favourite sitcom. Watch your favourite rom-com. Watch a bit of Married at First Sight Australia. Feel better about yourself because you're not on national TV. Telling everyone you can't pull. All these things just stuff what works for you, what relaxes you, and then you'll just rather than 4 hours, you might get 5 hours and 6 hours, and you might need to use naps later on. So go with naps less than 30 minutes or more than an hour and a half, but that's a sleep really. Wake up in between those two times, you're more likely to feel sluggish and lethargic. The biggest thing as well, I think, is the people around you. The amount of shift workers I work with where their families go, right, so you're getting home from your shift and you need to go and pick the kids up from school. Or you need to drop the kids off at school. And then after you got to go and pick them up. We ain't got much time between those two times to fall asleep. So I think sometimes there's actually also a compassionate conversation of how do we make a shift worker's life easier. Simple things like when your partner gets out of bed, get him to make the bed again. So that you're not getting to someone else's unmade bed. Don't exercise after shift. So get a lot of exercise being given more importance than sleep. So I got no time to fit in exercise. So finish my shift, I go and exercise, and I'm wondering why I can't get to sleep. Don't get home and have a fried breakfast. Don't get home and have steak and chips. Don't get home and have a coffee. All these things happen. So I think it's some of this. Don't use alcohol. Alcohol is a sedative. It will knock you out, but it does not give you sleep. It also stimulates, so you will then go to sleep and then wake up earlier than you should do. Amazing drug into alcohol. The fact that I can do those two things. Hangovers are sleep deprivation. You crave junk food. You want to have a nap. You get overly emotional because you had no REM sleep about who you got off with last night. That is alcohol.
It's the anxiety as well, isn't it? The after. Yeah. And that's what keeps you awake sometimes.
And then the NHS, you said, the NHS staff I've worked with, where they're using alcohol as their main prop. The bottle of wine before bed. And I get this a lot, most stuff, you go to a dinner party and some bloke will be, oh, James, I don't need your help. I sleep fine. I have a bottle of wine every night. That's a lot of wine.
I'm sat in a chat. I've just taken on the client who's yes, at least one bottle of wine a night, and she'll have maybe 2 or 3 on a Friday, Saturday.
You're not sleeping with that. You might feel like you slept, but the starting point with that is you've had years and years of poor sleep, and it's that. Do you feel constantly lethargic? It's the same with weed. Same thing with THC. You have that constant. You might feel like you slept, but you're never fully awake.
Do you find people use that a lot?
THC,
yeah,
more and more.
Yeah,
easy to get older now.
Because it makes you feel
more vital. So rather than having a joint.
Okay.
When I worked 20 years ago, probably people were more smoke weed. Now they're actually getting THC oil and using that. And I think it's like alcohol. It sedates. It works on the same part of the brain as sleeping pills, which again, they don't give you sleep. They give you sedation. So they remind you what sleep feels like, but they're highly addictive.
It's been a good few years since I've taken anything like that, but at university we dabbled, and I always found that it could go either one or two ways, and a lot of it was mental state. If my mental state was quite stressed and I got on those things, there's no way I was sleeping because it would intensify those thoughts and feelings.
Paranoia, the anxiety.
Yeah, absolutely.
It just you will fall asleep, but when you wake up, And this is like sleep, actually, the way we're better off judging it, data, numbers, that's why the 10-11 thing is really important. Are you feeling all right in day to the thing you need to do today? That's it. That's its job. We can over like analyze it. We can over dataize it. Ultimately, it's like, how do you feel? Like we create magic numbers. I need to be in bed for 10. You don't. You need to feel well slept the next day. I need to get 8 hours sleep. You don't, because every night is different, and every person's different. So you might need more. So you train someone, the nights you train them, they will need more deep sleep to physically recover. You've had an emotionally exerting day, you'll need more REM sleep. Your body will try and give you the sleep that you need, which might mean it might not be longer, it could be better quality. It might be a bit longer. But if we have this set in stone, I've got to have this and this, and sleep is a switch that I can control. This is where high performance people really struggle with sleep, because you've been taught your entire life, try hard to get better. And what I'm saying to you is stop trying.
And a lot of high performance people work on schedules and time blocks, and it's so mapped out their day that when they don't get that kind of initial time frame for the sleep, it's all out the window.
And it's not separating it out. It's like when I work with high performance environments, I have to separate sleep from performance. You can deal with a couple of nights of poor sleep. You can have a European final tomorrow, and you can sleep poor that night and still play amazingly. You need to believe that, because it's true. But what they're told is, what they've maybe got from society is 1 night of poor sleep. If you're told 1 night of poor sleep you're gonna die, well, what do you think about your performance if you've been fed that message? And that is going in. That's my job, and it can be hard because, like a lot of us will listen to high performance podcasts or something like that, and they'll have an episode where it's sleep, and then they'll say something that is wrong, and then I go in next time, and they're like, "Oh yeah, but that fella's on high performance podcast." And but it's up to you, lads. Do you want to believe an kids TV presenter or a bloke who every day helps people sleep better? It's entirely up to you. But can we like at least that trust thing? The problem is that we're building trust with people who, if we want to believe in a social media manager and an ex-kids TV presenter, for many, I think for many in particular, the people we're believing, we've got an eye doctor, we've got a fellow who sold a software company, they've all read about it, they've all talked to people about it, but are they the right expert to help you be better at it? I'd argue not.
Oh, how detached are they from real world scenarios? Like you've just said, you are from a family business of mattress sellers. You've had those jobs at Primark, at multiple other places, and you're very much on the ground with stuff.
Yeah.
You're not some tech billionaire CEO sat there twiddling his thumbs thinking, I might sell these blue blocking glasses. Yeah.
And those kind of people have got so much more to invest, as well, into the sleep, and they can hire people like yourself, get all the latest tech.
That's exactly it. So every high performance person I've worked with sleeps differently, but sleeps as they want.
Yeah.
That is the actual difference. That I can do that most of the time.
They're more in control.
It's control. Sleep. It's like you can't control sleep, but if you can control your environment, you control your routine, you will sleep better. Most of us can't.
Go on, after you, mate.
Speaking of control in your sleep, it's the Fit Dads podcast. So a lot of our audience have kids, and we had a few questions, didn't we, around like kids sleep, basically. And I think it was more of a plea than a question.
That was exactly my pivot as well, which is nice that we're on the same wavelength. But,
have you got anything that you can give to parents, especially around kids sleep? Anything that will just without double doses of Calpol, things like this that parents sometimes use?
I think there's an acceptance. So if your kid's not sleeping, don't matter how good you are. So I think we have to accept that. We have to accept all kids are different. So when I was a practitioner, you'd often go into a family and they go like, well, this kid sleeps well and this kid doesn't, and we've done the same thing. What's up with this kid? And you explain genetics and say like, well, one parent probably sleeps quite well and one parent doesn't. And sleep is mostly about genetics. It's what you inherit from those that came before you. And we don't really acknowledge that with sleep. Like, I think probably well-being generally, like your relationship with food can be quite genetic. Your relationship with exercise, how we respond to exercise, how you build muscle. It's all in your genetics, but we maybe don't acknowledge or accept it, and sleep is no different. And I think that's the first thing. So you'd have that conversation, and the person who's got the bad genes will get done. Like, well done. Another thing you failed in.
We're creating more arguments.
You messed it up again.
We're not solving things. We're creating more arguments.
I would also say, as parents, we maybe have a parenting style that we have chosen, whether that's gentle or more controlled. Your kid might not like that parenting style. Your kid might not respond to that parenting style. So you maybe got to leave that thought at the door. So as a practitioner, I wasn't really, when I was a kid sleep practitioner, so I wasn't babies. I started at 1 to 18. I did mostly teenagers. But when I did sort of work with younger kids, I think that was often a problem, that a parent decided I want to co-sleep, for example. If your kid is really light sleeper and they're co-sleeping with you and you might be a bit of a snorer, you're the problem. And they might benefit from sleeping in a separate room. So I think sometimes we can politicise kids' sleep, and it is very political. And there are some quite horrible experts who will tell you you're a bad parent because of the way you are trying to help your child to sleep. And I think that is the horrible, disgusting. No one's abusing their kid by trying to get them to sleep. Their kids will cry. If you try and get a child to change their behaviour, it will cry. So this no cry method, I would argue that's bollocks. That there is no cry method. You know as parents the difference between your kid crying because it's like, hey, what do you think you're doing? Where are you going? And I am really, really upset. And I think again as parents, it's like you've got to decide where your boundaries and parameters are around this. That's not I am not here to give you your ethic, the way you want to parent and the parent style you've got. I'm here to support you and coach you through that process. So I work with within Kip Mate, we've got a baby and kids expert. I think having someone coaching you can be useful. I think a lot of people, the value of a good baby kids sleep consultant is undervalued. A couple of £100, you're going to find someone who will help you sleep better if they're trained properly. But anyone can claim to be a baby and kids expert. There is no regulation. There are some people who are trained really well, and there are some people who are trained really poorly.
Would you anyone straight off the top of the bat that you would recommend people go and seek out, whether it's someone online?
Well, we use Callie used Deep Sleep Clinic because she trained with an organisation called EDS Training, and I think I would say they are the best trainers of kids sleep practitioners out there. Cool. But Callie is really good because she's a good coach, and I think that's what we're looking for with the people we work with. So I would say bear those things in mind. I would say all the stuff we've talked about up to now applies to children. You've got to drop your heart rate. You've got to drop the heart rate and the core temperature before bed. They wake up in the night. So let's work out why they're waking up. Are they too cold? Are they more likely they're too hot? Because we are scared to death of them being too cold, but yet actually being overheated is probably more of a problem. Are they, how is things like feeding affecting sleep? Are we leaving just so you've settled them down again? You've settled them down, they've gone to sleep, you're just leaving the room too quickly. So, it takes about somewhere between 10 and 20 minutes to fall into deep sleep. I know it's annoying, but you're going to find it more beneficial to just sit there for another 10 minutes. I think I found, I've got 3 kids, but we're a blended family. So my youngest, my biological child, we moved in with my wife and her kids, and it were a bit difficult. And Matilda is a good sleeper, but she found that transition a bit difficult. And I would go in all the time and reassuring her I had the guilt of a separated family, and it was, it's a lot harder when it's your own kid. I can sit here and pontificate, but applying it is a lot harder. And I would just I would not address an issue. My wife went, you wouldn't tell people to do this. And sometimes you just need that kind of a bit of someone to go, you can do it. And it's hard. I go into Matilda and I'd be like, will you shut up? Can't fall asleep. And my stepdad was saying to me oh, James, I heard you in the night shouting at Matilda. I weren't shouting. I was speaking in a firm voice and setting parameters of acceptable behaviour. And she's like, but I've seen your videos on social media, James, and you say you can't fall asleep. So how's Matilda going to go to sleep?
Oh, are they at that age then where they're watching your videos?
Oh, yeah. And stuff? Well done, Ruby. You walk around because I like 3 hours sleep for being facetious. But it's true. And I think, and again, it's that sort of thing. So you're saying to parents, I get it. I get that it's easy to say and hard to do. But I think you've got to treat kids individual, drop your heart rate, core temperature before bed. If they're worried, things like creating a box to put those thoughts in can be really helpful. There are no such thing as monsters. Monsters don't exist. Lay in their bed, look around. I once worked with someone where I've worked with people who've got Batmobiles coming out of the wall with lights on. I've worked with someone who had a bearded dragon in the room and they would have the night on all night long. I've worked with someone with 6 foot high Peppa Pig on the wall. Which is fine in the day, isn't it?
That sounds terrifying. That last one sounds horrific.
Hello, I'm Peppa. At night. Hello.
We had exactly the same thing recently. She went to a fair and she brought home a balloon, a helium-inflated balloon. It was a unicorn, loves unicorns. And we left it in the room. And she was waking up, talking about monsters and stuff. And Melissa's like, I think it's that bloody unicorn. I was like, just take it out. I come out our room and the unicorn was in there. I shit myself. I thought it was a person.
Yeah.
I genuinely thought it was someone stood in the hallway, but it was a unicorn.
Even simple as dressing gowns at the back of the door.
Yeah.
Fine. It looks like a burglar at night. And stuff. Like, this is for adults and kids. You start trying to baseball batter your own dressing gown. That is embarrassing. Isn't it? That is embarrassing. So I think it's like actually like is there a crack in the curtains that creates a shadow? These little these quite simple things. And again, like with as parents, I think the bedroom's becoming more and more. I think we can be quite performative in terms of parenting. So we can look at my kids' room, look how much I love them. I've bought them a bus that looks like a bed, or I've bought them a princess's castle. And if your kid's a good sleeper, that's fine. But if your kid's a poor sleeper, do you know what they'll do with that bus? They'll drive that bus all night long. They'll be in that princess castle.
You've got me analysing the room now. We've got a plant a little bit like that one there. And it sits on a shelf, and I'm just wondering if I looked up and saw that like as a hand coming down or something. Yeah,
but I think it's like, and again, if they sleep well, like I don't want anyone to go out. And if your kids sleep well, you then start moving stuff around because that might cause a problem. I have this thing where people say to me when I go into the James, I do this. What do you think? Do you sleep well? Yeah, I'm not bothered. No, you're not my problem. No, like cups of tea before bed. That can be caffeine. Obviously, the caffeine's relationship with sleep, it directly impacts on the body's ability to sleep. It's got the same shape molecule as adenosine, which helps that build that pressure. But it can also be a reminder of when you're little, because if your grandma gave you a cup of tea before you went to bed, that's a lovely, lovely thing. So we need to like acknowledge that of like I might say things now that you're doing, and I'm saying that the wrong. Like it's about 8 sleep. If you're sleeping on that and it works, don't worry about it.
So you're not against caffeine before bed?
No. I'm against it if you're not sleeping. It'd be an easy thing to try. But we've got to kind of like, the more you relax upon sleep, the better. Take the stress out of sleep, you start to sleep better. Yeah. And this is the stuff where I stopped drinking caffeine from like 12 onwards when I couldn't sleep well. No impact whatsoever.
Really? Didn't affect it?
But if I probably like 3 o'clock, yeah. If I have like caffeine after 3, but not going to sleep. So get me caffeine, but I'm fine, James. I go to sleep fine. Yeah, you're sleep deprived. But you wake up at 3 in the morning, yeah, that could be the caffeine. Because you've met your sleep appetite, you've quenched that sleep need enough that your body goes, right, come on then, let's go. So you've got to like kind of like judge it on you rather than like a prescription that someone else has given you.
I'm exactly the same. 3 p.m. is like my cut-off point. I know if I take it after then, I'm going to struggle to get to bed for like...
But you just don't want it like, if we didn't know that caffeine was bad for us, how would we react? Because that could be like in our heads, we might just created that like, 2 p.m.'s our time.
Yeah, you get 5, 6 o'clock, you're thinking, I'm not sleeping tonight. I've had caffeine at 4.
Yeah, I definitely do that. I do, and I think it's even like knowing what I know, I will do that, and it's that sleep is as much about the emotional as it is about the physiological, and I think we approach it because there's already a model for exercise and for nutrition. People have tried to create like the version, like a diet of sleep, a prescriptive approach to sleeping better. And I think we'd argue that diets didn't necessarily work anyway. But in sleep, because you can't force it, you've got to remember that emotional. Most poor sleepers have got it's their relationship with sleep. There's nothing more lonely than waking up in the middle of the night and being awake. It doesn't matter if you're next to someone, you feel so alone. And I think that's the thing that people need to feel, that it's not something you're doing. This is around your genetics, you can't cause that. This is around advice you've been given that's wrong. This is around that wearable brand telling you that this wearable will help you. Most poor sleepers are doing, it's called orthosomnia, obsession with poor sleep. 10 years ago I started doing this, it was insomnia I dealt with. Now it's orthosomnia.
I've never heard that term. I've heard it in the form of nutrition before, in orthorexia, but never orthosomnia. That's really interesting. So
it's often blamed on wearables, but I don't think it's just them. And I think some people use wearables. If your mindset is data gives you reassurance, whether that data is good or bad, and you know what you can do, then a tracker works for you. I would say that's some people. At the moment we're approaching that, trackers work for most people, and I'd say they don't. They do work for some though, and that's again that thing where I get approached by tracking brands to go, because I think if I go a tracking brand, I'm the person you should be working with. Because I'm a healthy skeptic, and I've talked about this. I'm like, I think you've got to. actually create a tracker that isn't related to a subscription. And we actually encourage people, like if you've having a bad time at work and you're not sleeping well, that's the point to me. You stop using your tracker, because all that's doing is putting more pressure on you. Start using it again when you start sleeping better. If you want to, so there's a difference again between optimizing. Trackers can be useful, and interventions to help poor sleep. Trackers can be really unuseful. There.
It's been one of my biggest bugbears, I think, with trackables or wearables, shall I say. Because it's this heart rate variability. The amount of clients have come to me and say, "I'm not trained today, Ryan, because my heart rate variability was low. My watch was telling me
readiness number was wrong."
Yeah, my watch was telling me I should definitely have a rest today. And I said, "How have you felt?" I said, "I felt all right. Sleep okay? Yeah, slept all right." But so why are you just looking at a screen or something that's doesn't really, again, and the fact that these things are maybe fudging the results a little bit just really is stopping people doing something they actually feel okay to do.
And the research shows us, like, so the research around sleep is, they took like the data off the person, they gave them the score, and so if you were told you slept well, however well you slept, you perform cognitively, you perform better than if you told you slept poorly, however well you slept. So this is performance is all about our beliefs around sleep, not about the how we slept. So whether it's accurate REM sleep or not, whether it's accurate deep sleep or not, is actually quite irrelevant. It's how does it make you feel? Yeah, and they don't make us feel good. And I think it's that thing like in sport. You know, one of the things that like Ross used to do at Rotherham, which was really good, was he'd like get them up at like early in the morning to go for a run. Because the idea is there will be a point in the season where you will sleep poorly and have to perform.
Yeah.
So let's see how you deal with that. I think we've got again, that's a high performance environment. I think, but what people do then is they'll then apply that, and it's some fellow who's a salesperson purposely waking up at 4 a.m. to test himself. Like, you don't need to do that, mate. There's no point where your performance is that important that you slept poorly. It's that sort of. I also don't like how we apply kind of like, you know, this whole thing like how to fall asleep. The SAS fall asleep like this. So therefore you've got to try and fall asleep like this, and you're a bloke who works in accounts and never does any exercise, and you're trying to apply. And actually I worked with one of the fellows off the SAS program on Channel 4, did a wellbeing event with him, and I asked him like, how do you fall, like, is it true this like the SAS method for sleep? Like, no, of course it's not. If I've fallen asleep, I've probably not slept for 3 days and someone's been shooting at me. As soon as I get a chance to sleep, I fall asleep. Because my body is so desperate for sleep. Like, breathing exercise, like, don't be stupid. It's like, we don't need to, but that's a good marketing thing. And I get that's one thing I get asked a lot, that SAS thing. You're like, you're not in SAS.
I've heard about this, yeah. But also as well, if I had £1 for every time someone had come into a session, normally like an early morning session, and they were knackered, they were tired, moaning to me about the week and how stressful it's been, and they hit a PB. And so I'm always amazed at how good the body can perform actually under.
If you sleep well most of the time, performance fatigues, you will often find that.
Yeah,
I would say, but you've got to be sleeping well the rest of the time.
Yeah,
if you're sleeping well consistently poorly, then you will more likely to get injured. You are more likely to. There is a bit of research that shows if we exercise on poor sleep, it's worse than not exercising at all. But that poor sleep is an interesting. It's how that's defined, because I would say one night if you've got 2 nights out of 7 and you're sleeping poorly, sleeping well 5, I'd still think that you're okay. If it's 3, 4. You've probably got to watch yourself, because that's when, from my experience, you start to get niggly injuries. You start to not hit those sort of. It becomes a bit of a cycle of
cognitively as well. I think you just generally are not as focused, and injuries and mishaps happen.
And we won't take risks. So if you're working in football and you've got to make an attacking pass or a safe pass, not set well consistently, you'll make that safe pass because you don't want to take the risk. One night poor sleep, there is a train of thought in some coaches that the adrenaline replaces the sleep, and that's not a bad thing. And I get where they're coming from. I just don't think we can encourage poor sleep.
I just had a really profound thought about maybe there's more night owls playing in La Liga, because they play at like 10 or 11.
It's that thing, essentially thing with like that culture, though, isn't it? Because I would say that it's a bit like our culture that's more geared towards early. Well, more people, like in terms of your makeup, and I don't like I'm an owl, I'm a lark, I'm somewhere in the middle as a definition, because I think it is more like a continuum and we sit on it. But you are more likely to be an owl. So in Southern Europe, you are more likely to be an owl, so therefore you can deal with it. But imagine you're a lark in that environment. Like I'm of the age when Canton were playing when I was in sort of in my mid-teens, and he always struggled on European games. And I've always thought was there a sleep aspect to that because he just, he maybe didn't quite fit his sleep type. And if you're playing in 2 hours later and it's a kickoff of 9, but actually that's 11 for your body clock, and you're finishing at 1, that's quite difficult.
One thing I love about some of your posts that you put out, James, on socials is any sort of prescriptive, do this, do that, here's my high performance prescription for perfect sleep. It's just 2 words. You just put sleep bollocks.
Yeah.
Do you want to explain to us a little bit about sleep bollocks and what that means to you? Because that feels very strange to say in a serious context.
We're not talking about Matthew Walker saying my bollocks are getting smaller because I didn't sleep well. I think I got to a point where I was just fed up. And it was something that's probably quite, I don't know, you tell me, how often you come across mouth taping in your work?
Oh, God.
Yeah. That noise sums it up for me.
Yeah.
And I got to that point with mouth taping where it was so rife and there's no evidence. So actually, I think we can link to it in the show notes, there has just been a meta-analysis of studies into mouth taping. And guess what? It shows that it's a lot of bollocks for sleep. And I think it's really important that we talk about that. So that was where it came from, this idea that mouth taping is helpful. Every Tom, Dick and Harry's on social media talking about mouth taping. I think breathwork experts are trained to promote mouth taping because the fella who owns a training company also owns a mouth tape brand. And he's talk about amazing business model. You're out there training all these people. He's on Chris Evans' breakfast show. So he's finding these kind of and I think that's actually I might sit and go, well, Uberman's more of a problem because that's my world. Something like Chris Evans, where there's general population listening, millions of them listening to it every morning, and he's saying mouth taping helps sleep because I slept really well last night because I mouth taped. That's really unhelpful in a general population environment, and I think that is more dangerous. And so I that was where it started, and then there's more and more stuff there's mattress industry executives claiming that they're a sleep expert and they're going to tell you how to overcome jet lag. They don't actually overcome jet lag. They're just nicking my content. There's a CBTI app which that might work. And a lot of sleep box around communication and marketing. It's not necessarily the product that work that IMAS we talked about that won a Sleep Bollocks award. The supplement company that's Sleep Bollocks, but it might help you sleep better. But we shouldn't be claiming it cures insomnia. That's a different thing. So the CBTI app they would put their expert in a white coat and a stethoscope around the neck. She's not a doctor. No CBTI practitioner is a doctor. So why are we medicalising something that's not medical? Because we want to give people this impression that it's more than it is. This year, the winner of the Sleep Box Awards was putting a red light bulb in your fridge. So that thing about light. She's a sleep expert. She's got affiliate schemes coming out of her ears. Affiliate scheme after affiliate scheme after affiliate scheme. She claimed that if you open your fridge for that 30 seconds, you take it out of the fridge, that light will disrupt your sleep. Americans, they have B-days. She'd put red tape over all the lights in her bathroom because she walks in the bathroom, that exposure for 2 minutes while she's sat having a wee. B-days across someone that's waking her up.
Her neighbours must think what's going on in the house.
But the problem with the fridge, for example, in the video on TikTok, she's opening the fridge going, we go in to get some beer late at night. Well, the beer's the problem. It's not the light. But it's quite interesting, the reaction in the industry to that, because if you say that advice without linking it to the expert, well, that's the wrong advice. You then link it to the expert, oh, well, she's only trying her best. And you're like, well, this, is it wrong? Are we going to attack Huberman for it? Because that's very Huberman-esque advice. And then we're not going to attack somebody else because they're not as experienced or got a bigger audience? Or are we going to actually try and educate? Because it doesn't really matter who's right and wrong in that situation. My concern is a poor sleeper who's changing all the light bulbs in their house to red light bulbs, and he's not solving the sleep issue. And that's this over optimizing of sleep. That's confusing optimization with improvement. Yeah. Where I've got a sleep issue, I need to sleep better. I'm a poor sleeper. I'm actually quite an all right sleeper, but I want to get better at it. These things are different, and it's like this is all communication. It's all a load of bollocks.
We're getting caught up on the minutiae, I think, aren't we?
Yeah,
too much minutiae.
But expertise loves minutiae and brand love minutiae. Because if they can focus on that, when it don't work, whose fault is it? Not theirs, it's yours. And that is the thing I don't like about the bollocks. Oh, it didn't work for you. You're probably not just doing it right.
Yeah. I really like your approach just to debunking and being like a voice of reason in sleep, because there is so much out there, and it's like the new hot topic, isn't it? Sleep, it really is.
Oh, it's like, I think the thing is, people have seen a way of making money out of it. So I will look at a hotel. I saw an advert for an hotel, and it's like, we have a nutritionist talking about how to solve your sleep issues. Would you won't get me in to tell you how to eat more healthily. So what? Like, and he gets a lot where nutritionists will say to me, "Oh yeah, but I've improved someone's diet, and that's improved the sleep." And in short term, it will. Because you know, if you eat more consistently and more healthily, your sleep will improve. But long term, that's one tool in a toolbox. When your sleep problems come back, where's your other tools? Oh, try some magnesium. Have some blueberries. Kiwi before bed. It's got melatonin in it. It's just not working because they've only got one tool in the toolbox.
I had quite a selfish question about hotels, actually.
Yeah.
So occasionally I do stay away for work if I'm doing some assessing work, and I don't sleep very well in hotels. It really bothers me. I'm like, I remember getting up in the night, and I feel like you've probably answered my question that's coming right now, which is when I was much younger, I think I was like 21, 22, staying in hotels on my own. I once had someone try the door, and like that stuck with me. Because deep down I sort of thought, what had happened if they'd have come in and they'd have just, who would have known? They just killed me. And every time I stay in a hotel, I think that. And that's probably for me the association of what if someone tries the door.
So as well, bear in mind that as an animal, it takes us 3 days to get used to a new sleep environment. Again, take you back to evolution. When we had predators, we're a nomadic species. We would go from place to place, new place. We don't know this place. So for a couple of nights, your brain stays more alert and awake. And you're going to be more anxious. So it's quite natural for that to happen anyway. And then you add in you've had a bad experience. It makes perfect sense. So what we do with like the footballers, they've got one night to change it. I would say there's some like practical things. Hotel pillows are appalling. I had my worst night's sleep for ages last week in a hotel, a Clayton hotel. And really, I just wanted to like give them some advice. I'm still waiting 3 weeks later to talk to somebody just to say, your pillows are rubbish. Yeah. Just like, you know, I spec hotels, those pillows were 50p pillows. So you're charging me 100 and odd quid a night for a 50p pillow. That don't work. What I take, and I forgot it that day, I have 2 bits of foam that I take in my suitcase and I get them out and I put them under the pillow. Because most pillows in hotels are either fibre or feather or down. As a material, it's not very structured. So you can kind of build it up, but you'll slowly sink into it. By putting those 2 bits of foam underneath, it just gives me a bit of height and a bit of structure that, because I've got quite broad shoulders, sleep on my side, lift it up. If you can take your pillow from home, so you're driving.
I was going to say, I thought you would say take your pillow.
But because I don't drive, I have to catch the train, and it's a bit difficult with like a suitcase of rucksack.
I've got the train, mate. Probably behind that recliner.
And pillow. And when I used to do it and I drove, I've left so many pillows in hotels. Because you take it and it's got like you've got a white, because again, pillowcase from home. Smells like home, feels like home, really, really powerful. Smell from home. So take your partner's perfume aftershave. So I will overshare. I'm a very needy sleeper. You know, I love my wife and she makes me feel safe. So when I'm sleeping away from home, I will take her perfume and I'll spray it on a t-shirt. One spray, I got done because I was using 3. It's expensive perfume. She's from Barnsley. We're not having that, James. You're wasting money here. She's right. I didn't think of it like that. So one squirt, take it with me. Put it on a pillow. So when I get there, put it on a pillow, give it a cuddle. If emotional connection, smell is so powerful to emotional connection. I've worked with people. We take pictures of things we love. We will have the same routine. So making sure, because you're in a room, like you get there about 5, just sit there. You go get your tea. You come back, sit there. Maybe just go for a walk around corridor, and then come back in. Put your pajamas on. So we're creating these like behavioural cues of now it's time for sleep. And try not to worry about it. The big thing is acceptance. It will be harder, but you will get through tomorrow.
I feel like we need to start a campaign about normalise walking into hotels with your own pillow. Because
I think so.
I stopped in Worcester recently and I did just that. I walked in with my own pillow. Felt like such a knobhead.
They take offence,
no one else did it. Yeah,
no one else. Like, what? We should have pillows of crap. I am. To be honest, I'm saying that's what I'm saying.
Because I walked in, I tried to hide it, and I'm just like,
because I used to do when I drove, I'd like book into the room and then go back out to my car and run to reception. You're right. Just like this shame of like I'm not taking people, but so for the footballers, it works really well. Now I can't get a football to admit to taking their partner's smell. They do. They all do it. And we want
Knowing footballers, they might have something else anyway when they're down there.
Well, the answer to the question, because you get like young ones like, oh, James, I've got like 8 partners. Which one's like pick? The one that smells best, obviously. Which one's got the best smell? Take that.
I can totally see that, young lads.
Yeah, it is. It's just you smell, routine, environment, put them together.
Yep.
No, I think hotels are better at curtains generally. They're better at noise cancellation. But again, I have a eye mask and a pair of earplugs. I got some bespoke earplugs that are made for my ears, so they fit a bit better. That's backup. So if I go somewhere and it's like particularly loud, I know I've got that kind of like, I might even get them out if it's loud. But for me as a needy sleeper, that's my reassurance that I've got my little toolbox if it goes wrong. And sometimes I don't sleep well, and that awful night's sleep, hour and a half, I then did 9 hours with a company, nailed it, because this is what I do. I can do it on poor sleep. But you know the best thing for good night's sleep tonight is? Bad night's sleep last night. Because your body wants to give you sleep when you've not had it. Instinct. 4 things we need to live. What we need to do is turn your brain off. So as long as you remember when you get home, you'll sleep all right. You'll be fine.
Cool. Another selfish question on my part is white noise. My wife has a favourite white noise track.
Okay. I feel like this is one of the things where I'm gonna get done off somebody. Go on.
She does put it on a sleep timer.
Yeah.
All right. She puts it on like an hour. Beach Shack, if anyone's interested. Summer Beach Shack. All right. It's a great white noise track. Is there any harm for white noise, or is it just that familiarity again, that environment? So
there's some things with white noise. I think consistency of sound. So our hearing is our alarm system. So if you relax that, rest of your body normally follows suit. So that's really good. Like sort of in terms of relaxing it. Actually, leaving it on all night for her would be better. Because when you change, your brain, as it falls asleep, if you go to sleep with noise, well, the noise is gone. You come out your sleep cycle. Where's that noise gone? Then brain comes out to like check. Now, she might turn over, go back to sleep, not a problem. Which is a poor sleeper, that's the thing I'd change.
Okay.
I did do some work about 3 months ago where we're looking, this was in kids more than adults, how white noise might affect development of the auditory system. So again, with kids, white noise is quite a popular thing. I would say with kids, don't add it in if you don't need to. So again, with night lights, if your kid's sleeping fine in dark and quiet, why are we adding in noise and light? But what we do is, we haven't even tested it. Because in baby shower, someone will buy like some stupid sheet that makes a noise. Well, that stupid sheet, what teach your kid? Your kid comes out of sleep cycle, sheet makes a noise, falls back to sleep. Comes out of sleep cycle, sheet makes a noise, falls back to sleep. What we're teaching that child is to wake up every time they come out of their sleep cycle. So when they get to 6 or 7 and sheep stops working, that sheep's caused a problem. So those sorts of like lullaby devices, you're better off just having one that just stays on if you're using noise.
Okay.
Not one that. So I would say, if you both, to get back to the first question, how do you both sleep with that noise?
Fine.
It's not a problem then.
Absolutely fine.
It's not a problem. But if people are using it and then find they're waking up, then maybe make it all night or turn it off totally. Okay. So I like noise. When I met my wife, I was listening to I used to like listening to the radio. I think because my bedroom was next to the kitchen when I was born. We lived in a bungalow. I couldn't even dad like, so I like that noise. Couple of like maybe a week and not done it. Okay. After a week, I'd said to my wife, I need to talk about something. She went, "Oh, yeah, you're getting no." And I get why you think that, but it's not that. I have a noise all night. It's like we're not having that. We're just not. That don't work for me.
Yeah.
And because my emotional. So let's take sleep back to its most basic form: physical and emotional security. So my wife replaced the noise in terms of physical and emotional security. If you've been in a relationship, or you've had maybe a one night sleeping experience with a person, you don't sleep quite as well because you feel that emotional insecurity. So all this stuff we've talked about, if we were going to put it into a sentence, is physical and emotional security. What makes you feel physically and emotionally secure? What makes your child feel physically and emotionally secure? That's it. That's all we need to do.
I'm the same with fans. I can't have a fan on. Just the noise. I like it silent, deadly silent. Anything a little noise, tapping, some outside. We live by the tram tracks here, and sometimes roadworks going down there. It's a nightmare for me.
So you have that like, but that's one of the things. So I used to be like that. Like, I used to live when I lived in Sheffield in a flat, and the woman above would move her furniture around. I went up at 5 o'clock. Does she not understand how poor my sleep is? You part of the like I when I work with people, it's like we can't control that.
Yeah.
So we've got to be like accepting. If we accept it, we're more likely to fall back to sleep. If we just sit there and get really angry,
that's me.
then you're not going to fall back to sleep. Because it's all about like that. That's emotional and physical insecurity. That's your saber-tooth tiger. Drop your heart rate. Try and have a little mantra in your head. It's not their fault. It's not their fault. It's not their fault. It can work.
Speaking of hotels and travel, what would you recommend for plane journeys?
So is this jet lag question or just trying to sleep on a plane?
Just trying to sleep on a plane. I mean, you see all these little pillows around the necks,
I think again, like some of them can work, some of them don't. Like you got some. I've used that one that wraps around your neck, and it's all right. It's not. I think get a window seat. If you're traveling and you want to sleep, you need a window seat.
Okay.
Because if you got something to lean against, then
you could add it. Yeah.
If you're an aisle, you're either going that way or into someone's lap, and that you might get arrested.
For me, it's Jordan.
Yeah. or like on tape, you can like sometimes go on table. I would say eye mask and earplugs, your own, take your own, and a blanket where you're smelling it.
Yeah.
So just stop that smell.
Bloke next to you's going, that smells a bit smells like girly, this like.
Just like it's remembering, like some people get in a plane, just fall asleep, they're fine. It's quite an insecure sleep environment. So if you can't sleep in a plane, it's perfectly understandable.
Yeah, I've had a business idea with this. I want a really tall neck pillow, because I need scaffolding. Because anytime I try and sleep on a plane, James, it's like horrendous. I've got the longest neck in the world.
This one's in America where you kind of you tie it to the seat in front, and it holds you like this. But then there's something that stops the person putting their seat back. And for reading about it, just creates scraps on planes. Why's my seat not going back? And you'll turn around and some fella like Hannibal Lecter.
How does it stop their seat reclining?
I think it's two different. I might be getting two different products confused.
Is it? Okay.
But that one, I'm sure there's one way. Just you put something across here, I keep and this is the British culture to American culture. Yeah. There's not a cat in hell chance a British person will get on a plane and start with that rigmarole. We would not do that. Make it quite easy. But that blocking thing, I think it's gone bust because I think probably someone got lamped and then sued them.
For sure.
Maybe. Have you got any summary questions for James? Because honestly, James, you've been incredibly generous with your time, and I'm keen to bring it home.
No, I think that's it. I don't think some of the questions that we had through, but I think we've pretty much covered everything. Supplements, magnesium, that was a big one. Kids sleep. Some of our own selfish questions in there. Sure.
I've got a few quick fire ones, if you like, James. Could you explain the importance of sleep to a 10-year-old that wants to stay up late?
If you sleep well, you're gonna and the thing that they enjoy. So if you sleep well,
perfect.
So gaming, for example, always like a thing. If you want to get better at gaming, you need to sleep well. So it's like sleep. It's that thing sleep is the fundamental to the way we live. So around that being scared of sleep, being scared of the dark. We're designed to be scared of the dark. We are more vulnerable in the night. But how often do we have a conversation with our kids about how great sleep is, how it gives us the fuel for life? And we don't. And I think it's really important that we build that science into it. Often kids have got questions and whys. My daughter hates the fact I'm a sleep geek. Because I go in and go, you need to do this. She's like, I hate that. Always got an answer, haven't you? Because she's like, I don't want to go to sleep, Daddy. I feel, well, let me tell you why you're feeling scared. Mm-hmm. That does put her to sleep, so it's fine. It does work. But I think it is we should, it is fundamental to life. Food, water, air and sleep. So you need to give it some importance. You want to be better at gaming, sleep well. You want to be better at dancing, football, whatever it is your kid does, you need to sleep well.
You might just save some parental relationships there, James. I'm not gonna lie. My last question for you, James, is stolen from Tim Ferriss. I heard Davey Burks ask it me and Ryan, and I thought it was quite a nice one about if you could put a message on a billboard that the entire world could see, what would it say?
Good sleep is about physical and emotional security. What makes you feel physically and emotionally secure? And that's it.
Love it.
Awesome.
Absolutely love it.
Mate, thank you for today.
Thank you very much.
James, thank you.
Thank you, James. If people want to find out more about the amazing work that you're doing or reach out to you, ask any questions, where can they find you? I am the Sleep Geek on social media. My website is sleepgeek.co.uk, and my company Kip Mate, which is more the corporate side of stuff and the sports side of stuff, that's kipmate.com. Phenomenal. Thank you very much. Awesome. Thank you, James. We'll see you guys on this one. See you soon. Mega. Mate, that was awesome. Thank you so much, James. Very grateful, mate. Thank you very much.